So Okay, we'll go ahead and call Fed and State to order. It's Thursday, March 10th. First thing on the agenda is bill introductions. I believe we've got 3 members online and 3 members in here, so we've got a quorum. I've got a couple bill introductions that I've been asked to do for Senator Minority Leader Sykes. The first one is, I believe it's their Senate redistricting maps. It's RS 3369. It's blue stem plan. And if there's no objections, that bill's introduced. I don't see any objections, so the bill's introduced. The second one is 22 RS 3610. It's the Eisenhower plan, and I believe that's another map that Senate Minority Leader asked me to introduce because of weather. It's hard for them to get in here today. Any objections to that? Not seeing any. That map is, or that bill is introduced. Are there any further bill introductions by the committee or audience? Not seeing any, we'll go ahead and move on to our hearing today on Senate Bill 130. We'll open the hearing. Jason, you want to give us an overview?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Senate Bill 130 makes amendments to the Kansas Act Against Discrimination. This is an act that prohibits discrimination for the protected classes specified in the act. Nationality, ethnicity, race, religion are all part of that, those protected classes. The amendments actually deal with the protected class of race, and you'll see the amendments on page 3 of the bill starting in line 33. It defines race to include traits that are historically associated with race, including but not limited to hair texture and protective hairstyles. And then for further clarity, the bill defines protective hairstyle as including braids, locks, and twists. And so any actions that would be discriminatory on those bases would be discriminatory with respect to race and a violation of the Kansas Act Against Discrimination. This is applicable both to the General Act and to the provisions specific to housing discrimination. The bill will go into effect on July 1st of this year if enacted, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Jason? Not seeing any. Okay, we'll move forward with the testimony. The proponents, I'm going to start off with Michelle Watley.
Thank you all for having me, and thank you all for dredging through the snow this morning to continue to serve Kansans, even though there's a blizzard going on. There's clearly no snow days in the Kansas State Senate. It's good to see that you're all still working. I'm happy to be here with you. Thank you for having me. My name is Michelle Watley, and I'm the founder of Shirley's Kitchen Cabinet. Shirley's KC is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to amplifying the voices and power of Black women through education and advocacy so they can be better advocates for the issues that matter to them. Our work to create positive change around issues such as economic prosperity, health and vitality, education, eradication of violence is derailed by bias in some of our laws in education and economic prosperity in particular. Grooming policies that prohibit natural hairstyles such as locks, braids, and twists disproportionately impact Black Kansans, among others, and have real social and economic impact. Our 2,000 members plus across the state and in Missouri are in support of the bill that will expand opportunities for all Kansans while strengthening anti-discrimination laws that already exist. So we're not seeking to add a new bill or do anything different, but essentially strengthen laws that are already in effect. In 2018, a teenager applying for employment in Kansas City was denied the role because he wore locks. In Ottawa, Kansas, a college student was kicked off the cheerleading squad because she wore braids. School policies and public policies that directly and indirectly target natural hairstyles that are more likely to be worn by Black Kansans allow for discrimination that is currently legal under state law. At some point, we just have to look at ourselves in the mirror and think about in what ways have we used small things like dress code to keep us from having equitable access to opportunity. True equality will be achieved by maximizing the ability of all Kansans to become self-sufficient. And education and access to jobs is key to self-sufficiency. My first career, I was a carpenter with the Carpenters Union. I worked in the construction trades for 5 years, was eventually asked to be a superintendent. And during that time, I worked, my first job was in Nebraska Furniture Mart. My last job outside of Wyandotte High School was at the H&R Block headquarters downtown in Kansas City, Missouri. I was able to successfully work up the ranks with this hair, wearing braids, and was never asked to change my hairstyle. But I still had to adhere to safety protocols in the construction trade, which included pulling my hair back. And all of that time in wearing natural hair, I was never prohibited from being successful. It didn't hinder my performance on the job. When we look at Kansans that we beloved, such as the Kansas City Chiefs, a lot of those players, Patrick Mahomes, wears a natural hairstyle. We wear the caps in celebration of his glorious curls and locks. But if he were to wear those hairstyles in the workplace, he could be sent home from work or reprimanded. If he was to wear that same hairstyle in school, he could be sent home from school or suspended for wearing that same hairstyle. His curls don't prevent him from getting us to the Super Bowl, or at least close. My natural hair and braids never prevented me from building some of the best buildings in Kansas City and working for one of the top construction firms in the nation. And we want to make sure that all Kansans have the same opportunities for jobs and success by ensuring that this bill strengthens the rules we already have on the books. So we're urging you today as a committee to support the end of discrimination based on hairstyles. No one should have to face discrimination in the workplace or schools for wearing their hair the way it naturally grows out of their head. And all Kansans should be allowed to celebrate their natural beauty without fear of judgment or consequence. Thank you for your time and attention. I'm happy to answer any questions that you all might have.
I think we'll probably go through the questions because some of the members are online. And then that way, we'll go through all the proponents and then ask questions, if that's all right.
That works for me.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Michelle. Thomas Witt, I don't see him here, so we'll move him. Written, okay. Are there any other proponents in the room that want to testify? You can get up and make a statement. Go ahead. Just state your name and.
Okay, thank you. My name is Oshara Hayes.
Okay.
Okay. First of all, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning to the chairman and to the members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Oshara Hayes, and I am the African American Democratic Caucus Chair for Shawnee County. And our caucus promotes the African Americans getting involved in the political process and running for office. I'm here today to express my strong support for SB 130 and supporting creating legislation that would prohibit race-based hair discrimination. And I also want to support amending the definition of race in the Kansas Act against discrimination to include traits historically associated with race, including hair texture and protective styles. When I, as an African-American woman, see hair discrimination, it's extremely personal. I see people across America with talent, skills, and abilities to succeed, but it is disheartening to see these same folks discriminated against just because of their hair. Everyone should be able to express themselves as themselves no matter where they are, and here is our expression. As long as someone is not causing harm, they should be free to be themselves. There are unwritten codes of understanding in our society, and I understand that to be true. But just because there are unwritten standards of hair does not mean I need to fit into anyone's definition for myself. I'm proud to stand before you with my natural hair, and I hope that you recognize the importance of creating legislation to protect me and my community. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Are there any further people that want to testify as a proponent in the audience? Okay, not seeing any, we'll move to our virtual. First up, Senator Fascadeau.
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Thank you. First off, I want to say thank you for holding this hearing. And I know that Michelle Watley, who spoke earlier, and it sounds like an echo. Do you hear that, Mr. Chairman?
Okay. Our IT guy is telling us that you're on there twice and your second one's echoing the first one.
Okay. What about now?
We're good with it. Go ahead. No, it sounds
Okay, thank
fine.
you. Well, I know that there was some concerns last year when we had this hearing originally. And I think that there is a request for a balloon a minute to change some of the wording in there so that it addresses exactly what we wanted to do. And I don't know if Michelle Watley has that language or not. But I just wanted to say, Mr. Chairman, the reason I introduced this legislation was because I saw the footage of the young man who was a wrestler at a high school college in Kansas. And before he could participate in his wrestling match, he had to stand out in the middle of the gym with spectators, and the referee cut off his hair prior to him wrestling, and it just really saddened me that he wasn't able to participate because of his natural hair. And so I guess that's the peanut of the issue, is that we want people to be able to be themselves and still participate in sports or at work.
Okay. Is that the extent of your testimony? We've got your written.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm having technical difficulties. Usually I would have been there in person, but I have a funeral to attend in the morning, so I'm back here in Wichita. But I'm going
Okay.
to go ahead and yield my time to others. But I would certainly ask for the committee support.
Okay. We'll move on to our next virtual, Dr. Overstreet Vaughn.
Yes, good morning, Chairman, and to the committee. I am Dr. Glenda Overstreet Vaughn, and I am here representing the NAACP Kansas State Conference. I stand here as a proponent, as does our organization, for supporting this bill, Senate Bill 130. We were also in support of this bill when it initially came out under a different bill number, and continue to stand firmly in our support of the passage of this particular bill. I also want to share, and without going into, I know that you have written testimony, but without going into too many details, because you all have our written testimony in front of you, I'll just share that there was also incidents from students as well as athletes at Highland College here in Kansas who alleged hair discrimination. And so, I bring that up to say that Kansas is not exempt from discrimination when it comes to allowing our students or our colleagues to be able to display their natural hairstyles. Kansas has been very reluctant, I should say, to move this bill. We are kind of sandwiched between two states who have already passed this bill. And there are even more states across the nation that have passed a bill that has had similar provisions to it. And so I would just urge the committee to look at this and to really be on the side of equality, so on the side of equity, to ensure that we are meeting the needs of our students, to ensure that we are also meeting the needs of our workplace colleagues, and just do the right thing in allowing us to go ahead and move passing this bill. And with that, I will be more than happy at the end of the session to be able to take any questions that you so choose.
Okay, we'll hold questions. Excuse me, Dr. Shannon, is it Portelis?
It's Portillo.
Portillo?
Thank you.
Sorry.
So I'm Dr. Shannon Portillo, and for the past 18 months, from June 2020 through December of 2021, I had the opportunity to co-chair Governor Laura Kelly's Commission on Racial Equity and Justice. The commission brought together 15 Kansans with backgrounds in law enforcement, education, advocacy, healthcare, and local government. We were tasked with identifying ways to address racial disparities in the criminal legal systems across Kansas in our first year. In our second year, we shifted our focus to the social determinants of health. The social determinants of health are the conditions where people live, learn, work, and play that affect a wide range of health and quality of life outcomes. We divided our work into 3 subcommittees focusing on economics, education, and healthcare. I had the responsibility of chairing the economics subcommittee. And while we didn't discuss this bill directly, so many of the recommendations that we presented focused on ensuring that our state is one where everyone can thrive economically, a state where everyone has equal opportunities at school and at work. And many of the ways that discrimination shows up in the workplace aren't necessarily malicious. I know this because of a lot of the research I do as a faculty member, focusing on how identity shapes the ways in which public servants experience, interpret, and implement policies within their organizations. For example, I've done some work with the U.S. Army Special Forces exploring the potential of women entering Green Berets. Often the military is seen as a meritocracy, the type of organization where you're recognized for talent and hard work, regardless of background. But in my research, we showed that there were a number of policies that unfortunately relied on outdated stereotypes. We referred to this phenomenon as organizational obliviousness, the ways that stereotypes and norms can get taken for granted or normalized in ways that ultimately, often inadvertently, harm people, specifically people of color and women. Often the only way to combat this kind of covert discrimination is to shine a light on it. And I think this act does that. It brings attention to the ways that Black people can be discriminated against, both unintentionally and intentionally, because of natural hair or protective hairstyles. Current racial discrimination laws don't recognize hair as connected with race, but we know that natural hair and protective hairstyles are inextricably connected to race and cultural identity. So this law asks us to recognize that we must be explicit about how legal protections against discrimination based on natural hair and protective hairstyles, and ensures that we're conscious of the fact that we're not perpetuating stereotypes and discrimination knowingly or unknowingly. Bringing awareness to this type of discrimination is important for our workforce. Our economy is growing, and we have to live up to our values of being the kind of state where everyone has an equal chance to develop the skills and experiences that allow them to succeed. When we have laws on the books like this one, we signal that we're committed to that goal, and we signal that we're creating and maintaining healthy workplaces, and our businesses can continue to grow, recruit, and retain talent right here in Kansas. So thank you for your consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions once we're through all of the testimony.
Thank you. S.S. Dickerson?
Good morning, Mr.
Morning.
Chairman and other members of the committee. Thank you all for your time this morning, and thank you for taking up, excuse me, this important issue. I want to point out that this is about more than just hair, though. It's about allowing people to maintain their identities in school and in the workplace. History shows us the importance of hair to different cultures and just how instrumental hair can be in determining one's own identity. And the way that you all chose to style your hair this morning before you came to work is, again, representative of your own identity as well. And the overall issue here is that by not allowing people to go to school or work without being discriminated against because of their natural appearance is not fair and is inherently discriminatory in nature. We wouldn't discriminate against a person with a physical disability and deny them employment or not allow them to participate in school activities because that's not something that they can help. And hair is no different. None of us can help the way that our hair naturally grows from our heads, whether that be curly, wavy, or straight. We don't really see straight-haired people faced with the same kinds of issues, which again highlights here the discrimination that's present. And so that's why I just urge you to please pass Senate Bill 130 to protect the rights of all Kansans to be their natural selves without being subjected to these discriminatory practices. And in closing, I'll just leave you all with the same question that I posed to you in my written testimony, which is just this. If you were told that you couldn't be a Kansas state senator because of the way that your hair naturally grows, how would that make you feel? And so again, thank you all for your time, and I urge that you vote favorably on Senate Bill 130.
Okay. Glenda Bois.
Good morning. I'm Glenda Du Bois. Thank you. Senator Olson and members of the Senate Committee on Federal and State Affairs. I appreciate this opportunity to speak in support of Senate Bill 130 on behalf of AARP Kansas. Again, I am Glenda Du Bois, the State Director of AARP Kansas. AARP is the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering Americans 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. With nearly 38 million members nationwide and over 285,000 members in Kansas, AARP works to strengthen communities and to advocate for what matters most to families with a focus on health security, financial stability, and personal fulfillment. All people, AARP believes all people have the fundamental right to be free from discrimination. Various civil rights laws protect this right. These laws prohibit many forms of discriminatory conduct. For example, discrimination may be prohibited on the basis of age, gender, race, ethnicity, religion, and disability. Anti-discrimination laws also cover sexual orientation, gender identity, and other forms of group identity. Discrimination can take many forms. Valuable opportunities or benefits such as work, credit, public, private goods, or services may be denied to members of a potential class. Hate crimes can target people based on their age, their gender, their race, or other protected classes. Some seemingly neutral practices may have a disparate impact on certain groups. Policymakers should protect and enforce the fundamental rights of all people to be free from discrimination. An example of neutral practices would be hiring practices that can effectively result in age discrimination or others. Therefore, we should eliminate practices that target specific groups for discrimination or exploitation. Therefore, we respectfully request your support of Senate Bill 130. And again, thank you for holding this hearing today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Stacy Nolan.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, it's Nell. My name is Stacy Nell. I'm the Executive Director of the Kansas African American Affairs Commission. You have my written testimony, so I won't just read that. I want to pay attention to one specific sentence, however, where I start off: dress codes or standards of appearance that appear normal to one group of people can be and often are painfully unaware of how those codes can impact other populations. I would actually like to take my time today to sort of tell a personal story as it relates to my natural hair. It's not always been the case that there was widespread acceptance of natural hair. I grew up chemically straightening my hair and thinking nothing of it, really. So internalized were the beauty standards that said that only stick straight hair was acceptable. I didn't decide to go natural with my hair until my daughter was 2 years old. This was 11 years ago, 2 years old. And in her curly haired perfection, one day she looked up at me and she said she wanted hair like mine. Princess hair, she called it. The sentence was not finished coming out of her mouth before I even made the decision to go natural with my hair. It took one sentence, it took the time for her to take one sentence for me to understand that for her to learn how to love her hair, she needed to see people around her, including me, learn how to love their own hair. We can fast forward to 2020 when I ran for the Kansas State Senate, and it was not lost on me for me to put my photo on walk cards with my natural twisted hair and send those cards out into areas like DeSoto or Gardner, Kansas. That might be a no-brainer for some, but for me, I actually had to take a second to think about it. See, I knew that my hair was still considered outside the norm. Legislation like SB 130 will do a lot to bring natural hair like mine into the norm and help protect little Black children as they grow into their own natural beauty. I also do think this legislation will impact future Kansas. At some point, Kansas policymakers and decision makers have to decide if they want the state to be a welcoming place that understands that diversity is not only a good thing, but necessary as we move into the future, or they don't. For Kansas to be competitive in the years to come, you have the opportunity to send a signal that can go a long way to attract people to the state and help retain that talent that we have here now. It's time that this body understands that we all benefit from learning about and accepting people who do not look like us and under some preconceived idea of what normal is. I urge you to pass Senate Bill 130 and expand the Non-Discrimination Act to include language that protects hairstyles that are commonly found in the Black and African American communities. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, next is Kim Randolph.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Senate Committee. Thank you for having me. I'm here today on behalf of, as a business owner, but I am a business owner and a community leader. I am a LK 2021 alum. I am a member of the Kansas Chamber Board of Directors. And I want to come in a different direction because I have a belief that Kansas as a whole would support this bill. Being that I work very closely with the state of Kansas, as a matter of fact, I was just in the State House yesterday, and over the last year when I went through LK, I traveled all over Kansas, and as you can see, I wear natural hair, and I have never once been discriminated because of my hair. For us to be having a conversation, I believe as a whole, Kansas would support the Senate Bill 130. Unfortunate incidents happen. And if we don't correct the law, they will continue to happen, and it reflects the whole state of Kansas. And I don't believe that the incident should reflect it when we can correct it now. So I urge you, I'm not going to keep all your time. You do have my written testimony. Again, I can ditto most of the testimony that has been given already. There's been legislation passed in several other states. And one of the things I learned in LK is we are searching for a one Kansas. And in order to be one Kansas, we have to be one Kansas authentically. So thank you again for having me. Again, I'll be here. If you have any questions, please just ask. Thanks.
Okay. Now, Ruth Glover, are you a proponent or are you a neutral? Okay. Are there any other virtual proponents that I don't have down? I have several written proponents, but I don't see anybody raising their hands. So we will move to questions for the proponents. Do we have questions for the proponents? Does anybody online have a question? Can our IT guy help? I don't see any, but I don't see any questions. So we will move on.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
Senator Faust-Trudeau.
there you go.
I do have a question. I'm sorry, I was on mute. I wanted to say thank you again for holding this hearing. And I want to say thank you to the individuals who have spoken support of Senate Bill 130. My question would be for Essence, the young lady that spoke, if she's still on the line.
Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead and
Thank
ask your
you.
question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Essence, you were an intern in the state capitol at one time. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct. In 2020, yeah.
And
2020.
in 2020. And
Mhm.
can you tell us the experience you or how you felt during your time in the Capitol, questioning how you should wear your hair, how you would be perceived by legislators there? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, while I was an intern in the Capitol, you know, there's a lot of senators and legislators who are not of color, and so as a result, their hair is straight. And so, definitely, there were a lot of times when I went into the Capitol, and I felt out of place. I felt like I didn't belong because there were not others with my hair, and that's been something that I've struggled with throughout my life, going to school with other children that didn't have hair like mine. I grew up in a community that was predominantly Caucasian, and then went to a high school that was predominantly Caucasian. So, for a long period of my life, I would go to any length that it took to make sure that my hair was straight. I would not leave the house without it straight. And as a result, that caused a lot of damage to it, which I've been able to fix over the years after I was able to embrace my hair. And so, if like Stacy and so many others said, if we teach our children that they're accepted in the workplace, they're accepted in school, it'll make Kansas just a better place in general for all of us to live, really.
Okay,
Mr.
go ahead.
Chairman.
Go ahead, Senator Fascado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I have two daughters, and they are now 25 and 27, and they are just now beginning to embrace themselves and or their hair, their natural hair. I remember when they were children, and I was getting them ready for elementary school, junior high school, middle school, they call it now. It was always a struggle to get them to school on time because of their hair. They wanted to look like their friends. And it was always a struggle. And even for myself, Mr. Chairman, when I get up in the morning, I get up maybe at 4 or 5 o'clock so that I can do my hair, so that I am presentable, and I still have it in my heart where I've got to look a certain way to be acceptable by my colleagues there in the Senate, Fed and State Committee, and even on the floor. So I don't want my colleagues to think that the passage of this legislation is saying that anyone is racist or not accepting men and women of color. I also want to point out that I know a wide variety of young people, and they wear their hair in different ways. So I think this legislation would also help all races who want to wear their hair their natural way. The last comment, Mr. Chairman, that I would make is that I know that we had this hearing in the past. I know you and some other members of the committee had concerns. And I want you to know that we are willing to work with you or address any concerns to have this bill become law. I finally want to say that, Mr. Chairman, since the last hearing, I received a package at the state capitol from Dove, you know, the company Dove with soap. And they are saying in their letter that if the state of Kansas passes this bill and join other states who have done so, that Dove would like to do something really big for this committee and bring awareness to the state of Kansas nationally. So again, thank you so much for your time, Mr. Chairman. And again, I urge the passage of Senate Bill 130. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions for the proponents? Senator Cluse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did I hear correctly, one of the proponents was associated somehow with the Kansas Chamber?
I believe someone said a chamber. I don't know if it was the Kansas Chamber. No, no. There was a lady.
Made mention, I couldn't remember if it was.
It's
Kim Rudolph.
Kim Randolph.
Randolph?
Yes.
Were you saying the Kansas Chamber or
I
just
am a member. I just became a board member of the Kansas State Chamber.
Oh.
Okay, yeah, okay, I appreciate that.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, and I just wanted to have a question for Senator Foscadow.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I believe it's imperative, you know, people having their natural hairstyles, cultural protection, identity. I think that's all important. I would just wonder if she would be able to respond to help me understand, just being new up here, to the Kansas Chamber's second paragraph on their page, and I hope I'm not getting ahead of you here as an opponent.
Yeah, I think you might be because we haven't moved to the written opponents yet, but I mean, you can ask a question of Senator Foscadow.
Well, I just wanted her thoughts on their paragraph there. Here they're saying, Chamber very much supports respect current protections that Kansas have under our current laws, ensuring that no person is discriminated against because of their race. It's our belief that discrimination against certain hairstyles is already prohibited. If she could just touch on that, help me on that.
Okay.
And they're thinking of created unintended consequences.
Okay, did you get that, Senator Foscadow?
Yes, I did, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. And thank you, Senator, for the question. I don't have that language in front of me to read it myself. However, again, I don't think the bill is really, that's where Jason Long might be able to help us. I don't think it's really about race. It's about natural hair, being able to go to work and wear your hair naturally without changing it to be acceptable in that workplace. Mr. Chairman, I don't know, it's so many people here in Wichita that were supposed to be at the Capitol today and or testify virtually. I think a lot of them submitted written testimony. Mr. Chairman and Senator, I know people here in Wichita who, and I know that we as a state legislature, we want people to go to work and be self sustaining and add to the tax base as opposed to being a liability. I know several people here in Wichita that have been fired because
I've seen that.
the way that they wear their hair. However, to directly answer the question, these are some of the concerns that came up in the last hearing. I know that if you have a construction company and on that work site, the person working there has got to follow those rules. And if they've got to wear a hard hat, just like they put their hair back in a ponytail and put it underneath the hard hat. And if the senator could read me that question, because I'd like to actually hear exactly what they're saying. I just can't see why anyone would not want
I think,
Faust Godot to come to the committee room wearing her hair like she would want to wear it without being afraid that I would be um, um, not able to be there because I wore my hair a certain way. And that's what the issue is. And that's what's happening for real in this state. I represent a majority of African American constituents in the inner city Wichita, and it happens all the time. And it's just unfortunate that like I said in my testimony, that I even have to submit this, introduce this legislation so that people can be free within their hearts and live their lives. The pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness, Mr. Chairman. And
sure.
it's, I'm sorry.
I think probably the best
Senator,
way to answer your
if
question would be to maybe ask the chamber to elaborate on their comments so
thank
we
you.
can get a little more comment. But Kim Rudolph's got her hand up. Am I saying that right? Her name? Randolph.
Randolph. It's an
I'm
A in
sorry.
there.
I'm
It's okay.
sorry.
It's
I'm
okay. I
really
get it all the
sorry.
time. I get it all the time. I just wanted to make it clear that I am not speaking on behalf of the Kansas Chamber. I'm speaking as a Black woman who owns her own business, I do run the Heartland Black Chamber of Commerce, and I just happen to be a member. So what my speaking or bringing up the Kansas State Chamber is because of the acceptance that I feel within that chamber. And I think that it should reflect the whole state of Kansas is what I'm
Sure.
getting at.
Sure. Sure. Are there further questions? I'll make a comment. My son, he's a freshman now. Back when he was, I don't know I think it was seventh grade, he was playing football and, we go to football games a lot, Chiefs games, and Patrick Mahomes pretty instrumental in his life and he's got natural curly hair. And so he wears the Mahomes hairdo on pretty much ever since then. And we've met him and his family. And, one day he's in the locker room getting ready for a game. And, coaches are like, oh, you're wearing the wig, huh? And he's, no, I'm wearing this is actually, looks like his hairdo. And, as I was watching him go through junior high, I wondered if, he had big hair. It looks like Mahomes, very curly. But then as I see him grow into the high school years, almost all the kids are wearing them hairdos now. And so I'm sure that's easier on him, but, I always wondered if coaches wouldn't single you out or not because, your hair's so big but I don't know. That's just something I share with you as, my son very much loves Patrick Mahomes and he loves his hairdo. So, and I'm so excited to let him express himself and his thoughts. So, with that, we will, if there's no more questions for the proponents, we're going to move on to, there's written opponent. And then we have a neutral, Ruth Glover. Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. Was there someone else that wanted to speak? Who? Dr. Glenda Overstreet. We'll go ahead and give you one more quick word, and then we're going to move to the neutrals. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for recognizing me. I heard that there was a discussion that maybe there might be some committee concerns maybe in the past. And then also that the Kansas Chamber was particularly concerned about unintended consequences. So I just wanted some clarification around those two matters, because it may just be a matter of just, educate with respect to some of the situations that people are currently going through. I don't know that I've heard what some of the committee concerns have been, but hopefully at some point you may be in a position to address that. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know that there was any concerns. There was a question about the Kansas Chamber's comments, and so go ahead, Michelle.
I will add quickly, we worked with the city of Kansas City to pass similar legislation, making the city of Kansas City the second city in the nation to have that. And what we found is, from where I sit at this moment, there haven't been cases brought up for this type of discrimination. What this does is it essentially closes a loophole in the current laws that allow for discrimination, whether intentionally or unintentionally, because the definition of race does not include the characteristics of hair. And so right now, for instance, the 17-year-old who was denied the job, although he was said to be highly qualified, doesn't have any recourse because it's currently legal for someone to be kicked off the job or kicked out of school for hairstyles, because our laws don't currently cover that. And so the city of Kansas City has passed it, St. Louis, Nebraska has passed a similar bill, and your Nevada, Virginia, states across the nation are passing it, because it just closes the loophole and ensures that that law that is already on the books, that we have already agreed to, actually works the way it's intended.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to the initials. Go ahead, Ruth Glover.
Thank you. I'm Ruth Glover, and I'm with the Kansas Human Rights Commission. We administer the Kansas Act Against Discrimination. We carry out our mission through a two-prong approach. First of all, we receive complaints of discrimination, we investigate them, and we work to resolve them. And then secondly, we do public education in the hopes that if people can learn what discrimination or harassment are, then it won't occur in the future. We are neutral on this bill. But, passing the bill might raise awareness about the issue. We feel that we can already accept complaints of discrimination based on race, where there are allegations that there's been discrimination based on natural hairstyle or harassment based on natural hairstyle. When we were discussing this bill, we felt like we could already accept complaints of discrimination involving hair, either based on race, ancestry, national origin, sex, religion, or disability. But again, passing the bill would raise awareness about the issue. I did want to address one issue, and that is involving students and student activities. Our public accommodations does not allow us to accept complaints involving students or student activities, and that's based on a Kansas Supreme Court ruling in 1988, and that is the second paragraph on the first page. So we would not have jurisdiction to accept complaints involving students who have had interactions with other students, teachers, school administrators, or school districts. And so we would like to suggest for the committee or for constituents that if they want to address discrimination based on natural hairstyles involving students, that there would be an amendment to the state's anti-bullying statute. I'd be glad to answer any questions, and we would encourage people that if they know of individuals who feel like they have been discriminated against in employment situations due to their hair, their natural hairstyle, that they contact us or the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission to see about filing a complaint.
Okay, questions? Do we have any questions? Anybody online, any committee members online have questions?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Fasquedo?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I appreciate the comments from the Kansas Human Rights Commission. I appreciate that about the awareness. And, again, I don't think anybody wants to continually make complaints. We don't want to get anybody in trouble We just want to be able to naturally exist. So, and I don't know if my male colleagues on the committee or anybody listening really understands this. So, Black girls cannot wash their hair every night or every week and just wash it and blow dry it and walk out of the door. A lot of them wear braids because it keeps and it stays longer, Mr. Chairman. And then we can get our children up and out to school on time. And I think it's unfair that we'd have to keep submitting a complaint over and over, you know, if we're living every day and we've got to get up and go to work and school and wherever we go. We just want to be there and feel comfortable. And I appreciate if the and I'm sorry, I always forget your name. I'm sorry, Judy.
Ruth.
Is that
Ruth.
Ruth, I'm so sorry, and I know you, Ruth. I'm sorry. If you could elaborate just a little bit on, you mentioned it would bring awareness too, just so people would know, you know, why this young girl or guy who's applying for this job, you know, might be wearing their hair in braids every day because it's just more convenient for a Black person to wear their hair like that. So the awareness that you mentioned, can you elaborate how that might help in this situation?
Well, I think, just having it in statute, it would bring awareness that it's prohibited against it. Right now, we follow the EEOC guidance, which prohibits discrimination based on physical or cultural characteristics associated with certain race, including skin color, hair texture or styles, or certain facial features. But if it's actually in the statute, then it's actually in writing. We do have on our online harassment prevention training that race discrimination involves treating someone, either an applicant or an employee, unfavorably because he or she is of a certain race or because of personal characteristics associated with race, such as hair texture, skin color, or certain facial features. But having it in the actual statute would bring a certain weight to that consideration.
Okay. Further questions? Okay. We'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 130. Just want to make comments. Next week, we've got a pretty heavy schedule, so just be here on time if possible. Got several people. The bill, we don't have the bill number read in yet, but we will hear probably Wednesday and Thursday, the medical marijuana bill, and there might be a change on the agenda. I'll try to announce the changes, as well as we'll send out new, once we get the number, we'll send that out, but I will try to announce them on the floor. With that, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for testifying.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman.
Very much. Kim? My name's Glenda Du Bois. I'd like to contact you.
Yes, please. Yes.
Oh,
I can be, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I can be reached. I'm at home, so I'm giving you my cell. I'm not at the office today because of snow, but it's area code 913-265-9245.